Thank you for joining us again. Now, President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the redeployment of 7 permanent secretaries. A statement issued Wednesday by Deputy Director, Communications, Office of the Head of Service of the Federation, Mohammed A. Ahmed, listed the names of the affected permanent secretaries and their new portfolios. William Nwakwo-Alo was deployed from Police Service Commission to Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy. David Adejo was redeployed to Ministry of Education from OSGF Economic Political Affairs Office, while Ibene Roberts moved to Ministry of Special Duties and Intergovernmental Affairs from Special Duties Office, Office of Head of Service of the Federation. In the other postings, Monisola Odo was deployed from the Federal Civil Service Commission to Ministry of Science and Technology, Bashir Noura Akali from Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs to Ministry of Works and Housing. Nasir Sani Gwazo moved from Petroleum Resources to Humanitarian Affairs, while Ibrahim Kana from the Office of the Head of Service of the Federation was posted to Ministry of Defense. The statement said all handing over and taking over processes are to be completed on or before April 11, 2022. The House of Representatives on Wednesday passed through third reading a bill which seeks to establish national social investment programs, NSIPs, with a view to assisting and empowering the poor and vulnerable persons in Nigeria. The bill was passed after the adoption of the report of the Committee on Poverty Alleviation at the Committee of the Whole. As stipulated in Clause 18 of the bill, the funding for the NSIP programs shall be drawn from counterpart contribution from the federal government, state and local government, such sums as may be appropriated for the programs by the National Assembly, such sums as may be provided by the federal government or by state government to support the activities of the office or a particular program, donations from individuals, companies, government institutions, bilateral or multilateral organizations, and development partners. The lawmakers also passed through third reading a bill which seems to establish National Youth Service Corps Trust Fund for the purpose of providing a sustainable source of funds for the National Youth Service Corps, NYSC. The bill was passed after the adoption of the report of the Committee on Youth Development. And the Senate has also passed a bill to provide for the holistic review of Nigeria's copyright law and make it an offense to broadcast any digital or online work of a performer without first obtaining their consent. The bill in Clause 73 provides for a fine of not less than 100,000 naira for an individual or imprisonment for a term of not less than 1 year or both. It also imposed a fine of not less than 2 million naira where criminal liability arises in respect of infringement of performers' rights. The review was aimed at strengthening the provision of policy and legal framework for the effective regulation, protection, and administration of copyright in line with global best practices. The bill, when signed into law, would make the broadcasting or duplication of any online audiovisual work without the consent of the performer an infringement. Justice Donatus Okorowo of the Federal High Court in Abuja has on Wednesday ordered the federal government to comply with the 35% affirmative action for women. Affirmative action for women refers to various government policies or programs aimed at particularly at increasing the proportion of women in various sectors historically considered to be male-dominated. Justice Okorowo made the order while delivering judgment in a suit filed by some women groups challenging the alleged marginalization of women by the federal government. In arriving at its decision, the court agreed with the plaintiffs that the lopsided appointment by the President Muhammadu Buhari-led government was unlawful and an arbitrary violation of the National Gender Policy 2006, Sections 42, 147, subsection 3, and 14, subsection 3 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, and Articles 2, 13, subsection 2, and subsection 3 and Article 19 of the African Charter of Human and People's Rights. The court also agreed with the women groups that the overwhelmingly predominant appointment of the male gender into decision-making positions of the Federation was wrong, unlawful, unconstitutional, and a violation of the provisions of the earlier cited laws. The judge accordingly granted all the relief sought by the plaintiffs and restrained the president from further exercising the constitutional and statutory power of appointment in a manner violating the 35% affirmative action policy of the government as contained in the National Gender Policy 2006. The Minister of Interior, Ogbeni Rauf AREGBESOLA, on Wednesday said the federal government was working with the Nigeria Air Force to be able to aid the Federal Fire Service in deploying planes for the aerial firebombing of bushfires, high-rise buildings, or other wildfires requiring area attacks. AREGBESOLA, who was represented by the Acting Comptroller General, Federal Fire Service, Dr. Samson Karabo, at a two-day tall building fire safety conference in Lagos, disclosed that the federal government had procured DG-54 aerial platform firefighting truck with a 54-meter height capacity to reach the 18th floor of the high-rise buildings. Karabo said, quote, "It is sanctioned in Lagos for having largest concentration of high-rise buildings in Nigeria," end of quote. AREGBESOLA says the federal government is working out modalities for armed escort for firemen on assignment to deter touts and miscreants attack. The Presidential African Bar Association, AFBA, Mr. Hannibal Owaifo, has called for the urgent convening of a national discourse to address the challenges of insecurity in Nigeria. Owaifo made the call in Benin City, Edo State, on Wednesday after his investiture as notary public for Nigeria by the Chief Judge of Edo, Justice Joseph Acha Owaifo, who noted that the present state of insecurity is capable of throwing the nation into anarchy, said the federal government lacked the will to tackle the challenges. He stressed that convocation of a national discourse on insecurity is a sure way of proffering a lasting solution to the menace that has claimed hundreds of innocent lives within the last few weeks. Musiliu Akinsoya, popularly known as MC OLUOMO, has been appointed chairman of the Lagos Parks Management Committee. The committee is expected to oversee the affairs of all motor parks and garages in the state. In a statement signed by the State Commissioner for Information, Bengal Motosho, the move is in fulfillment of the government's promise to ensure that events in the National Union of Road Transport Workers, NURTW, are not allowed to threaten law and order. Other members of the committee include former Police Commissioner of Lagos, Hakim Odumusu. Members are to report to the Ministry of Transportation, Alausa Secretariat, Ikeja. The government on March 10 had suspended NURTW operations in all parks and garages following the tensions sparked by some events in the union. And a new tax regulation imposed by the Oyo State government on the activities of members of the Well Drilling and Rig Owners Association could force over 100,000 residents into the already saturated labor market. National President of the union, Michael Ali, stated this in Ibadan when he led his members on a peaceful protest to relay their displeasure over what they termed indiscriminate and illegal fee collection that could adversely affect their businesses.
Of course, if boys having issue, if they come to us, we can settle that one, there is no problem. But only this Oyo state having this 30,000 or something out of 36 states. Why only here? I don't understand. And government should provide water to the communities and people, drinkable water, that is everybody, every human being right. That should be provided by the government. Why this 30,000? If they are collecting 30,000, how they are going to
it is not
understand? I don't understand how they are going to regulate, how they are going to give water to the communities. Even we are ready to do with the government, with some boreholes we can give freely ourselves.
We don't have to be sentimental here. If things are wrong, environment is where every one of us stay. We need to protect it. I do not support indiscriminate drilling. I want it to be regulated, but not financial regulation without any cost that's leading to regulation. And don't call it permit. Permit is only obtained, drilling permit, by the person that is drilling, that wants to engage a company to drill for him or her. Not from the company. The drilling company is supposed to have a license, if by regulations. It's only license. If there is any arrangement that you have, then don't call it permit. Call it ticket.
The Managing Director, Chief Executive of Bank of Agriculture, Mr. Ali-HASSAN, has been released by terrorists who had abducted him during the recent attack on the Abuja-Kaduna train. The attack last Monday night reportedly left 8 persons dead, with several others injured, while scores were whisked away by the terrorists. However, Hassan, who was among many passengers whose families declared missing following the incident, was seen standing among the terrorists wearing cream jalabia in a video they released from their camp. In the video, the terrorists stated in a Hausa language that they released Hassan because of his age, position, and the fact that he was observing the Muslim Ramadan fasting. Hassan was, however, allowed to speak on why he was being released. Pretty much confirmed that the reason the terrorists gave for releasing him. He revealed he was leaving behind many people still languishing with the terrorists in their camp, urging the government to do something about their fate. Meanwhile, terrorists who attacked the Abuja-Kaduna train killed 8 passengers on board and kidnapped an unspecified number of others, have explained why they struck. They spoke in a video shortly before releasing the Managing Director of the Bank of Agriculture, Ali-HASSAN. The terrorist in the video, the 1-minute video, 21 seconds, said they did not attack the Kaduna-bound train because of ransom, but to press home a particular demand from the government. They threatened to kill the rest of the passengers in their captivity if the government does not hasten up in meeting their demands. The video, which has a burned armored personnel carrier in the background, appeared to have been shot at the scene of the reported attack on a military base in Gwari, where 2 APC were reportedly burnt after they killed some soldiers. The BOA boss, who was flanked by 4 terrorists, 2 on each side, was allowed to speak in the video apparently recorded before his release on Wednesday.
Mu da ne zaman da muka kama wayannan mutanen nan a jirgin kasa an ba ga sanan da kun gansu wannan da cikin ikon Allah da neman alfarma da yayi da yanayin ganin tsofarsa da yayi shine muka tausaya masa yanzu da yanayin wata na Ramadan muka fitar da shi zamu mika wa ƴan uwarsa amma wannan gwamnati kusan abin da kuke kai wannan ba komai bane mun dai tausaya masa ne mun mika masa gashi nan dai in yana da wani.
And the Presidential Steering Committee, PSC, has announced that the nationwide curfew from midnight to 4 a.m. and limitations on gatherings, along with other restrictions imposed in 2019 to curb the spread of COVID-19, have been eased. It, however, warned political parties to ensure that their event involving large gatherings adhere to COVID-19 guidelines issued by the Independent Electoral Commission, INEC. These were contained in a new policy announced yesterday by the PSC on COVID-19 on the implementation guidelines for easing COVID-19 restrictions across different national activities. The policy, signed by the committee's chairman and secretary to the government of the Federation, SGF Boss Mustafa, said the decision followed reduced risk of importation of new variants. We'll now take a commercial break. When we come back, we'll take you to the Africa scene. Please stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. And now for some African news. Somalia's Prime Minister on Thursday expelled the African Union representative, saying that the acts were incompatible with his status, though Somalia's president rejected the order, signaling a new rift between the Somali leaders. Prime Minister Mohamed Hussein Robo's office said the African Union representative, Francisco Madeira, must leave within 48 hours. The Prime Minister's office said, quote, the Somali government declares the special representative of the African Union Ambassador, Francisco Madeira, persona non grata, for engaging in acts incompatible with his status, end of quote. It, however, did not give details of what Madeira had done that led to the expulsion. And Burkina Faso's former president, Blaise Compaoré, was sentenced in absentia to life imprisonment for complicity in the 1987 murder of its predecessor, Thomas Sankara, in a coup. A military tribunal ruled on Wednesday. The charismatic Marxist revolutionary Sankara was gunned down in the West African nation's capital, Ouagadougou, at the age of 37, 4 years after he took power in the previous putsch. Two of Compaoré's former top associates, Hyacinth Kafando and Gilbert Dendere, were also sentenced to life imprisonment. All three have previously denied involvement in Sankara's death, along with 11 other defendants accused of involvement in the plot. 3 of the 11 were declared innocent and the rest received prison terms of between 3 and 20 years. And now to the foreign scene, where Germany's intelligence agency intercepted radio messages from Russian military sources discussing the killing of civilians in the Ukrainian town of Bucha. German news magazine Der Spiegel reported on Thursday. It said the agency presented the findings in Parliament on Wednesday without giving a source for the information. Bucha, 37 kilometers northwest of Kyiv, was occupied by Russian troops for more than a month following their February 24 invasion of Ukraine. Local officials say more than 300 people were killed by Russian forces in Bucha alone, and around 50 of them were executed. Moscow denies the accusations. According to Der Spiegel, the radio messages corresponded with known deaths. In one intercept, a soldier discussed shooting someone off the bicycle. A body was photographed lying next to a bicycle. And Yemen's president delegated power to a presidential council and dismissed his deputy on Thursday in a move aimed at supporting UN-led efforts to revive negotiations to end the bitter 7-year war in the country. Riyadh announced $3 billion in financial aid to the Saudi-backed government after the announcement by President Abdurrabbu Mansour Hadi. It called for talks with the Houthi group that controls the Northland has been battling a Saudi-led coalition. Yemen's warring side had, in a major breakthrough, agreed a 2-month truce that began on Saturday, the first since 2016. The truce also eased the coalition blockade on areas held by the Houthis, who ousted Hadi's government from the capital Sana'a in late 2014. Hungary received the first shipment of nuclear fuel for its Pax nuclear plant from Russia by air on Wednesday, after the war in Ukraine made shipping by rail impossible, Foreign Minister Peter Szijjarto said on Thursday. Szijjarto reiterated that Hungary rejected any sanctions on Russian oil and gas, adding that imposing any sanctions on activities related to nuclear energy was also a red line for Hungary. He said in a Facebook video, quote, fuel for the Pax plant has always come from Russia by rail via Ukraine. Unfortunately, this is no longer possible, so we had to find an alternative way of shipping. He said the fuel shipment had arrived via the airspace of Belarus, Poland and Slovakia to Hungary with all 3 countries' approval, as nuclear energy is not subject to any European Union. Well, that's it on News Now. My name is Omobolanle Adeshui. A very big thank you for watching. It's now back to Frank.
Thank you, Omobolande. If you just joined us, this is Business Now, coming to you live from our studios here in Lagos. Now is entertainment business.
Hello and welcome to Entertainment Business. I am Chioma Amaribulam. Sky Mavis announced on Wednesday that it has raised over $150 million in funding to pay back users who lost Ethereum and USDC as a result of the hack. The fundraising was led by Binance, Paragym, amongst others. Over $625 million worth of Ether and USDC was stolen in an exploit of the Ronin sidechain used for the popular play-to-earn game Axie Infinity. Axie Infinity has about 2.2 million monthly active players. The game is particularly popular in the Philippines, where users account for about 35% of global traffic. Many there have turned playing the game into a full-time job, and speculators have long feared that the hack could be economically destabilizing to millions of people. But Sky Mavis still sees play to earn. We believe that Axie will go down in history as the first game to imbue players with true digital property rights, and recent events have only strengthened this conviction, the company said. And away from that, Barbadian singer Rihanna has officially joined the Billionaires Club. This was made known by Forbes in its latest publication. Rihanna officially reached billionaire status back in 2021 with an estimated net worth of $1.7 billion. Forbes' Madeline Berg attributed Rihanna's wealth not to her music output alone, but to her widely successful ventures into fashion and beauty, such as her beauty fashion, Fenty Beauty. The financial magazine said, and I quote, "The company, which she co-owns with luxury conglomerate LVMH, reportedly ranked in more than $550 million in revenue in 2020. She also has a 30% stake in her Savage X Fenty lingerie line, which raised approximately $115 million in Series B funding at a $1 billion valuation in early 2021. So Rihanna has officially become the first billionaire from Barbados. According to Forbes in its new rankings, there are 2,668 billionaires with collective net worth of $12.7 trillion. Rihanna was ranked number 1,709 on the list. And away from that, a group of celebrity investors, including Gwyneth Paltrow, Cameron Diaz, and Drew Barrymore, are backing telehealth startup Evernow, which raised $28.5 million in funding. Evernow focuses on women who are in the menopause or premenopause stages and connects them to clinicians and prescription drugs. According to U.S. consulting firm Grandview Research, the global market for menopause-related products was valued at $14.7 billion in 2020 and is expected to grow at a compound annual growth rate of 5.7% up to 2028. And that is on Entertainment Business. I am Chioma Amaribulam.
Well, more money for Rihanna there. Thank you, Chioma. And up next is Sport Business with Samson Olede.
UEFA signed TOPS as its official championship licensing partner for the creation of collectibles, stickers, and trading cards, the company announced on Wednesday. TOPS, which was acquired by Fanatics in January for $500 million, will take Panini's exclusive place as UEFA's partner. Fanatics already runs all the major UEFA tournament shops. The deal will include Euro 2024 and Euro 2028, as well as other prominent events like the Women's Euro 2025 Championship and the Nations League finals. TOPS has signed Jose Mourinho to choose which players to make it onto TOPS collections. And still talking sports business at this hour, a piece of memorabilia from one of the most iconic moments could break the record for most ever paid for a game-worn jersey. The shirt worn by Diego Maradona during Argentina's 2-1 victory over England in the 1986 FIFA World Cup quarterfinals, during which he scored the infamous Hand of God goal, followed by the goal of the century, is expected to fetch more than $5.65 million when auctioned online by Sotheby's between April 2nd and May 4th. The record is the $5.6.4 million paid in 2019 for a Yankees Road jersey worn by Babe Ruth during the team's Mudras Row period in the late 1920s. The previous record was $4.4 million for a 1920 Road jersey sold in 2012. Maradona's jersey has never been put up for auction and has been in the possession of former England midfielder Steve Hodge, with whom he exchanged shirts following the match. It was Hodge who sent the ball towards Maradona, who batted it in with his fist out of sight of the referee. Maradona later scored arguably the greatest individual goal in football history. And finally, on sports business at this hour, the Formula One Global Motorsport Series has confirmed its multi-year partnership with cloud-based software company Salesforce. The 5-year deal sees US-based Salesforce join the series as a global partner, with the pair set to collaborate on various fan engagement and sustainability initiatives. Notably, Formula One said it will work closely with Salesforce, which currently has a net zero emissions and has achieved 100% renewable energy for its global operations, to help the series achieve its own zero emissions goals by 2030. Both parties will work on expanding the global Formula One fan base, in addition to deepening the engagement of existing fans using Salesforce Customer Relationship Management Platform. The increased understanding of fan data will be combined with new broadcast graphics, trackside signage, digital content, and various Grand Prix activations. And that's it on Sports Business. I'm Samson Olede.
Thank you, Samson, for that sport news, and that's a package for business news at this very hour. Many thanks for watching. I am Frank Malape. Bye-bye for now.